Welcome to the Nerve Guys podcast, where we discuss movement, performance, and rehabilitation through the lens of the brain and nervous system. The Nerve Guys podcast is hosted by Gareth Kelly and James McCambridge. To find out more about the Nerve Guys or to book into our online or in-person training programs, please visit thenerveguys.co.uk. The Nerve Guys podcast is sponsored by Elite Vision Sticks. Every day, athletes of all levels are reaching their full performance potential with Elite Vision Sticks. Pick up yours today.
So, this is another episode of the Nerve Guys podcast, and today we have Mr. Tom Morrison with us from Tom Morrison. Tom created a mobility program called s01e01. He also does loads of other mobility and strength-based training, like he has end range training and lots of other things. So go check out his website. There's stuff on there that will help you feel better. So we're here to actually talk about Tom's journey out of pain, because Tom wasn't always as sexy as he is now.
No.
Tom was
broken.
Yeah.
Completely
I was trying to think of a nice way to say messed up.
No, completely broken multiple times.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it was mainly your. Was it mainly your back?
Oh no, it was a horrible.
Back, shoulder, knee.
It was shoulder, then knee, then back.
Cool.
Well, it was back, shoulder, back, knee, back, shoulder still a problem, back, knees, knees deaf. There's definitely something wrong with the knee. Operation on the knee, back, back, back. And that was the one. So you know the way no one ever sort of heard something, it's like, I'll rest, it'll be fine. That sort of journey that people go on. That was me, and I was like, okay, this is totally normal. It's part of the game. You enjoy training. Injuries part of the process. You got to keep on pushing. Never with ever addressing my full training history at all. I never trained. Never had any interest in training until I was about 24. And then I decided I was going to go and win the UFC.
Of course.
So I jumped straight from doing absolutely nothing, probably drinking 2 bottles of wine a day and smoking about 30 cigarettes a day, to training for, I would say, probably 5 hours a day, through different weight training and martial arts training as well. So
what came first?
Martial arts was the big one I was sort of into, and the weights were sort of like as a supplement to that.
To help.
And then... So you actually see a lot of people nowadays are actually going the opposite way. Like a lot of strength coaches and PTs are like finding BJJ and stuff later in their career. I was the opposite. I was more like straight into the martial arts side, which is probably what got me as far as it did at the start. Because at least it was in some sort of body weight joint movement and some sort of proprioception was going on. So I had no body awareness. And whenever I was first trying to learn how to throw a punch, I was throwing my foot out to the side. I didn't know how to have it on the
sexy punch.
Sexy punch. I was like, I totally understand what it's like to be, older and not understand how your body moves at all. I can really, really relate to that. Whereas a lot of people that have just trained properly since they were 10 or just even younger than that, they just have this natural sense about them and stuff. So I had none of that whatsoever. And for me, unfortunately, I was able to get strong really quickly. So if I put weights on a bar, I could lift it. So I could put more weights on the bar, and I'd be able to lift it quite quickly. So the progress that I was able to make in a short period of time, and to me at that time was like, I've got catch up to do here. So I was like, I'm gonna go all in here, and I was training 5 hours a day, and I took 1 rest day a week, and I ended up just breaking everything systematically. So my shoulder was one of the first ones to go. Couldn't even lift my arm at all, so the scap winged and long thoracic nerve was just, just lost power in the arm. Didn't get seen to, still going to the martial arts classes and just jabbing away and just holding my chin. Don't punch my weak side, and every time you're sparring with someone, it's like, don't touch that shoulder, please. I was the guy you were going to spar with. And you're like, well, can I actually do anything with you? Because I'm gonna hurt you. So that was the shoulder was one of the first ones, and like just that mentality of, I can be fine, probably, maybe it's not fine. Okay, right, I'll go to physio. 6 weeks later than I should have, kind of thing. And I had to try a couple of different physios. There was a few that were giving me exercises that did absolutely nothing for me, and wanted me to sort of go for like 8 weeks in a row. And then I found one that was really good, and he was able to get the range of motion back significantly in one session. And he sort of stripped my pec out and stuff, and showed me a few activation exercises. And at the end of the session, he says, "Right, that's you." And I says, "Well, when do I have to come back?" He was like, I need to come back. So I just to keep doing what I told you, and you're fine.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? It was sort of like this sort of realization that, you know, not all people are the same kind of thing. So, so always shop around, I would say, for, you know, if you're going to physio and chiro, anything like that there, shop around, because there's ones that are better than other ones for what you do as well.
Yeah.
So like if you like to lift and you're going to someone that has no experience with lifting, they're not going to be able to relate to what you do kind of thing. So it's a good idea to shop around for things like that. So definitely a lot of mistakes made in that initial process there. And the knee was probably one of the next ones, and just my pelvis kept shifting, so I had to. And funnily enough, the guy told me it was all them sexy punches. The guy told me not to come back, but I just kept getting so many other reasons that I had to keep coming back to him anyway. So like, okay, well, this guy's pretty good. So, you know, I was sort of in that, you know, belief that I hurt, physio fix me, yay! You know, and I was raking it out every week. Sometimes it was going twice a week, and he was like, dude, you've got to slow down, you know. And I was like, no, I must be better than everyone else in the class. I'm nearly lifting more than such and such. And, you know, I was just obsessed with getting stronger, getting leaner and stuff as well. It was like a whole new lease of life for me, you know, because I hated my job at the time. And, you know, I found training, I found something I actually enjoyed that wasn't alcohol. And, you know, it was just this complete flip around, you know, like my relationships were getting better, everything. So training to me was like, I need this is my thing. So yeah, when I started just getting injured all the time, mentally was the biggest toll, because you were you're still going to the class, but you couldn't do some of the things, or sometimes you're just so sore. I would sit and watch the class, and you know, I would always value that, because you would learn more through watching as well. But you know, you get pissed off. You want to be in, you want to be training, and you feel like everyone else is getting stronger, and you're just withering away and losing your gains.
Yeah, it's that weird cycle. You're not enjoying it, but it's the thing that gives you the only enjoyment you've got, so you still go, even though you're not enjoying it, because you can't do anything.
There's something interested in, because some of the other talks we were having about pain was about, you know, nobody ever remembers their good days. So when you got like a chronic pain complaint, you don't remember any of the good days, and then you go, oh, it's sore again, I remember the bad days. But I think actually at the start, it kind of flips a bit, where you're just in denial about, you know, that's why you're not listening to the injury in the first place. Oh, my shoulder hurts a bit, but it's not really sore. I can still do all this stuff I really want to do.
Yeah.
Oh, now it's in my back as well. But it's probably all right. And it's not really that you didn't notice it. It's just you didn't listen to it until like way too late.
Yeah. See, you're immersed in your goals. You know, I don't have time to be sore. You know, I need to be able to snatch. I need to do all this. You know, and for me, I was just immensely driven, and that's one of with everyone that I work with, that you'll probably notice yourself as well. The people that are most driven are the ones that end up most hurt, because their enthusiasm almost lets them down, because they won't listen, and they really won't take that little step back to go further eventually. Like, you know yourself, you just every now and again someone has to just completely reset everything and just start again, and then they'll go way further than they ever would have. And that's really why I do what I do now as well. Is, you know, if I had known the stuff that I know now back then, I probably would have made way more progress than I ever did. Like, I'm really happy with where I got to. Like, after my injuries and all, I came back and improved my squat and everything, and beat all my original numbers, felt way better for it, and achieved every goal that I kind of wanted to do with my lifting and my lifting career kind of thing. And if I hadn't have went through that process, which I don't begrudge, like, it taught me a lot of stuff, and it's led me to do what I do. But yeah, I like to give that to other people now. It's like, here, if you fix these few things now, you know, the things you'll be able to do will be incredible. Whereas if you don't listen, you know, you could end up completely giving up on something you love, and that's the worst thing for me. You know, you meet people that stop doing the stuff they love for 10, 20, 30 years because they were told, oh, you've a bad this, and they were never told, give it a wiggle, you know?
I find with like the enthusiasm thing as well, like people, the more enthusiasm you have, the less time you've got for learning. Like, you know, once you've built momentum, it's like, no, let's just keep going this way until I hit the wall. And so you were saying earlier about, you know, a lot of people who've been training since they were really young, and then actually they're kind of just aware of their bodies. But then you get some who were trained kind of badly, and they still think they're aware of their bodies. So like, you have somebody, one student that came in, was like, all right, I need to get more flexible in my back. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I can help you with that. He's like, no. What I need you to do is, I'm going to lie on my front. I'm going to hold on to this stick. I want you to put your foot on my lower back and just pull the stick up as hard as you possibly can. And we're going to stay like that for a minute. I was like, well, I don't really think that's a good idea. It's like, it's what my coach did all the time. I was like, hang on a minute, didn't you tell me, like earlier today, you said you've got really bad scoliosis, really bad shoulder problems, really bad back problems, you're in pain all the time. It's like, yeah, but I still have to be better, so if you could just get your foot on my back, lift the stick up, that'll do me just fine.
Yeah, I love it. And that's the thing, it looks like it'll help. It does.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, someone would just do this to me, it would help, but it's like, there's so much more to it than that. Like, what if one side's tighter than the other, and you're just pulling both sides at the same time? And it's such a... Yeah, the things that we latch on to, that you think will help, and especially whenever you see the adverts with the person with the neck, and it's all this red spot of it. That it's, here's your pain point, and all you need is this weird contraption with 60 things poking out of it, and that will fix you. And people are willing to spend £100 in this thing and spend an hour a night on it. Yeah. To going, oh, this really helps with my neck pain, rather than moving their neck.
Yeah, and people think things that those contraptions. And I'll go for the cheaper version, foam rollers. But they think those are doing them good because it hurts where it already hurts. If you know what I mean, using a foam roller hurts the site of the pain, so it must be doing good. Mm-hmm. When actually it's generally just making it tighter.
Yeah, I was addicted to my foam roller, properly addicted. Like every warm up, I put my foam roller in it. Every night when I got home from the gym, I was like, I'll put this extra work in my recovery. And it was just. I would spend an hour with the lacrosse ball, the foam roller, rolling things out, hitting the trigger points. And, I was the expert at making things not hurt through hurting them. Yeah. And little did I know at the time, I actually made the bad shoulder that I had, actually made it too mobile. I made it more mobile than the other one, and it started to cause way more problems. And then the other one started to hurt from that as well, because what I actually needed was rotational exercises and actual stability and strength and things like the bottom up press to actually teach the shoulder how to stabilize itself. And that was the greatest thing ever for me, because when I twigged onto that, my shoulder was fixed. This bad shoulder that I had for a year probably, like on and off, would just stop working completely and I'd have to take a break from everything, was completely fixed, like with no issues whatsoever. In fact, I was stronger than I ever was before. At the time, I was only able to do one crappy muscle up where I'd get to the top here and I would lean all my weight to my left arm and then push the right one out like that, creep that shoulder up over and then push out the top to finish off the dip. And just through doing these exercises, so if you want to search for these ones, the dumbbell shoulder rotation that I would post regularly, banded dislocates and stick dislocates as well for the range of motion, and just general rotation exercises in the bottom up press. They were the key ones that I would make a routine of every night doing, like every night without fail. That's the thing as well, a lot of people assume, you can't train the same muscle twice and stuff like that. There's another misconception about that. It's like, I did the same shoulder routine every night for months and progressively built up the weight I was using with it. And just through doing that, not training muscle ups at all, I was able to do 5 strict ring muscle ups.
Yeah, see, that's the key. Mm-hmm. You were taking rehab exercises and using them as strength. This is what I do to 90% of people I see. Mm-hmm. I take a rehab exercise, use it as a strength exercise, so you build up the weight and endurance within the range of tolerance, and they do it every day. Because you move your shoulder every day.
Yeah,
you move
your
head, your leg. Yeah, you should. You should. Not everybody does. But do you know what I mean? So you have to build up that tolerance. Mm-hmm. So then you actually end up being stronger than it ever would have been doing your typical shoulder exercises, or just say practicing the muscle up on its own. Take the rehab exercise, turn it into a strength-based exercise, and you're flying a lot of the time.
It's funny how you just don't need that intense an exercise for it to help. Like, I think with the foam roller, I was using the lacrosse ball to try and get my splits, and they were just getting objectively worse by the day. Like, not that I could do the lacrosse ball for like 2 hours, and then I can't walk properly, and I'm like, oh, look at this, I've got my front splits back, but every day it's tighter and tighter and tighter. But I wasn't willing to. The reason I thought that was good was because it was really hard to do, and if someone said, "Oh, if you just tried moving your legs a bit, like just a little bit, like not anything big," I'd be, well, that couldn't possibly work because everything's sore and everything's tight, and it's a big problem, so it's going to need a really big solution, and so then you have to be pushing and hitting hard just to get the result.
Yeah, I have a quick little theory on trigger points. Usually in life, things that are a trigger aren't good. Trigger points do what? I think people are like, you're releasing the trigger point when you're rolling on it or the crossball in it. I actually think you're just pissing it off. You're putting a big ball in it, triggering the trigger point to tighten everything. But people think because it hurts, it's actually doing the opposite, it's releasing it. when actually,
It's
no,
actually when
you're
you
just
release,
winding it up.
Yeah, when you release it from the ball, it's that, oh,
You
get
think, God, I'm
that,
done.
that
Yeah.
in your body, and that's a teachable skill. You don't
Yeah.
need a ball to do that. You can
No.
teach yourself how to do that through breathing.
Exactly.
And for me, like that martial arts, after I went through the loop of like the misinformation almost that's out there, which can help at the time. And for some people, you can get really lucky. You can dig the ball in once and shoulder feels great,
Boom,
and
done.
boom,
Yeah.
done. But that person probably already moved well.
Yeah.
There
There's
was
always
probably,
exceptions.
there was
to
probably
that. Yeah.
nothing that much wrong with them. Whereas if you are really, really, I hate using the term dysfunctional, but if you just don't move your shoulders and hips like shoulders and hips, and you just think shoulders go that way, they only go that way. The amount of times I've posted rotational exercise with the shoulder and got ripped online, going that's dangerous for your blah 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 blah, and it's like, what? Rotating a joint that's supposed to rotate, that's dangerous. So you're not seeing the logic in this. It's absolutely crazy to see. So yeah, some people can get really, really lucky, and those things help right off the bat.
Yeah, because there are always exceptions,
Mm-hmm.
always. But the thing about people ripping you because you want a rotational joint, you rotate. Oh my god! But like it happens for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Hips, spine, Jefferson curls, anything like that. Like spine not supposed to, bend like that, but your spine is literally designed to move like this.
Yeah, it does. How do you put your shoes on?
Yeah.
How do you put your shoes on in the morning? You properly brace and let's go.
Well, some people, but like it's your first propulsion system. It's supposed to move, and when it doesn't move, it gets angry. And then see with the shoulder, if it doesn't move, say if something's not working in it properly, something else is going to help and compensate. Another muscle is going to go, don't worry, I've got this. I'm helping you out. And then it goes, and then another muscle goes, you lads look like you're having a problem. I've got this, I'll help. And it just gets worse and
and
worse.
it's all
and
the
worse.
muscles. It's all the muscles, and they all try and help each other.
Yeah.
And everyone just seems to latch on to the serratus anterior. It's definitely that one.
Oh.
And it's like have you ever rotated your shoulder? Have you ever stretched your neck?
Yeah.
Have you ever done something that requires you to balance on just one arm? Just a standard push-up, and if you can't do push-ups, just one from your knees. Just have you ever put pressure through one arm at a time? Stabilize your shoulder and see what that feels like. There's a whole list of things you need to check, and people just go, "It's my serratus anterior," and you're seeing people with protracted shoulders getting a foam roller and putting a band around their arms and protracting their shoulders and rolling them up the wall when they need to add retraction, and they need to have the actual movements of the shoulder going on. It's absolutely crazy.
So your injuries, obviously, I'm speaking from experience, will have led to a hell of a lot of pain in your life.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of dull pain that doesn't go away. Like I always remember when my back was really, really busted, so I didn't know it was broken or anything, and I just thought it had like herniated discs and stuff, and I thought they get better on their own. The worst thing for me was rolling over in bed, sneezing, and putting on my socks.
Yeah.
3 things that if I was on overground or the tube or anything and I sneezed, I would just fall over. I would just crumple to the ground because I could not, my legs would just stop. I would go, down.
Yeah.
Putting on the socks in the morning. And then I would always wake up in the middle of the night if I needed to roll over because it was so sore. I had to bend my knee up and put a foot on the bed and push myself over.
Yeah.
So
You don't realise how heavy legs are.
they are really heavy.
Until something's tugging on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming that you were very similar.
Oh yeah, it ruined my life.
Yeah.
Like you're talking everything we're talking about so far with shoulder and stuff like that. Like I was annoying, and got you demotivated a bit, and pissed off and annoyed. But then it was a funny thing because you figure this stuff out gradually, So I thought, I know how to fix shoulders now. I know how to fix everything. But no, there's still more to it than that. The hips and the back is just a ridiculous complex system that just does not have a frigging clue unless you know what you're looking for. And for me, when I hurt my back, I'd heard it a few times before, so I torn fascia on the left side before. So if you look, there's actually a picture of me deadlifting that I would share sometimes, and
I've seen this.
Yeah, you can actually see my right side is all crumpled up on one side, and my hips are sort of rotated and twisted, and you can see how low down my right shoulder is compared to my left. So all that stuff's going on. Like I was not aware of that at all, because your body's always looking for equilibrium. I thought it was completely straight. But then I went to my physio every now and again. He would have joked and called me Banana Man because I was quite lean at the time, and you could visibly see my abs. And if you looked at me, he'd turn me around and say, "Look at yourself in the mirror," and you would see a curve, like a C shape of my abs, of the way I was actually shaped. So again, I was always relying on him to sort that out for me. And yeah, so at the left side of my back, it was always, I tore the fascia in it. And then one time we got new barbells and I was all excited.
Of course.
And I just started loading them up. I didn't warm up at all. And I did a clean and went down to the squat and completely shifted my pelvis to the side. So like if I was standing up straight, one of my knees was completely bent. And I was in a lot of pain. And that, you know, those wee instances, they took like 3-4 weeks to get over. And then the big one was I was doing back squat. And I started work. I was working on my mobility at this point, and doing I was still doing the rolling at this point, and I was using the banded hip distraction stuff and all that there. You know, nothing that actually taught my hip how to move, but just was just yanking on it and pulling it. So my squat depth was improving, and then I started squatting in flat shoes. And I thought, yeah, I'm the mobility king now. And then I was doing a heavy 3-rep max back squat, and as it was coming up, I just heard doop doop doop. In my back, just and I thought, oh, took my back again, and I was just like, it was going to phone the physio. I was like, I'll just book in with him, no problem, and I'll see him tomorrow. And that next morning, I thought I'd been severed in the middle, like the spine. Like I tried to roll out of bed and was like, what is going on? I couldn't move at all. The weight of the legs, kind of thing was, I had to roll sideways. And I tried to sit myself up like that, and you start putting all your weight through your shoulders. And then as soon as my left foot touched the ground, I screamed. And I actually dived. I went from being barely able to move to diving to the floor on my knees with my arms in the bed, screaming and crying. And my wife woke up and was like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "I don't know. Something's really bad here. You know, something's really, really wrong. I'm not. This isn't normal. This isn't the way it's supposed to feel." And then my wife helped me get downstairs. I phoned Tony and said, "You have to get me in now. Like I can't wait till lunchtime. I have to see you right now." This was before we had the kids. So my pregnant wife at the time driving me, I had to lie down in the back of the car. She couldn't sit in the car. I had to lie down on the back seats, totally illegal. But I couldn't sit. I had to get there. And the worst thing about it was he had stairs up to his office. And
yes, that's right.
Yeah, and I went in, and he sort of asked me what was wrong, what I felt, and he says, "Dude, I can't touch you." And I was like, "What do you mean? You fixed it before? You silly goose! Silly goose! You can fix this." And he was like, "No, you need to go to hospital, dude. Seriously." So didn't charge me for the session or anything out there. So I went to hospital and then lay on the table. And at this point, I couldn't touch my toes at this point. And I went in and I couldn't even bend my neck without my lower back, screaming. Like it was so uncomfortably. It just didn't feel right. You know, when your brain's going, something is wrong, like you've got something's wrong. No, something is wrong.
Is it that one that your stomach goes? It makes you feel sick. You know, like you hurt yourself so bad, you go, and all you feel is the sickness and the cold sweat at once.
I always used to describe it as like it felt like someone was trying to pull my spine out of my butt.
Yeah,
I actually felt like trying to go like that, pull it out. And went in, and the doctor was horribly unhelpful. Gave me painkillers, and they laid me on the bed and sort of lifted my foot like 2 inches off the bed, and I screamed, and they said, "Oh, your range of motion's fine." And I was like, "Oh!" Normally if someone did it to me, I wouldn't get to 90 degrees at that point, but we got pretty close. And he had to send me on my way, and for then I just started, because I knew stretches to use and stuff, and I was doing the foam roll and stuff at that point, so I sort of devised, so like every morning it was completely reset. Couldn't put socks on, but I refused to let my wife do it for me, so I screamed and cried and sweat pouring out of me until I'd finally forced myself to get to my feet to put the socks on. Stairs were horrible in the mornings, couldn't sit in the car. Just sneezing, I'd have my hand on the wall and be looking up and everything, sticking my tongue out. Looking up the ceiling trying to stop the sneeze happening, because that would just have broke me. So I sort of devised this thing in the mornings of like foam rolling, so I would have rolled the adductors and everything, and again, created more pain almost to give that sensation of relief. And then I went through all the movements that I knew would have helped with my hips, like because I was already helping people at the time, clients and stuff, with things like if someone tweaked their back, I was like, "Oh, I'll go see Tom because he knows what to do." So I was using all that stuff, and it would help, and it would get me to a certain point every day, but it was still never pain free. And if I sat still for any amount of time, the pain came back, and every morning it was like a full reset button, and it just was back as bad as it was every morning without fail for months, and it just would not stop. And it was mentally breaking me properly. Like I was for giving up coaching, because who's going to listen to this coach? He's broken his back. He obviously doesn't know how to lift, And like at that point, like I didn't know how to teach technically really, really well. There was nothing wrong with the way I was teaching how to weightlift or anything like that. It was all completely fine. It was that sort of thought in my head. We were also expecting our first wee one, Roxy, at the time. And I just had this thing in my head. It's like, I'm not going to be able to hold my daughter when she's born. Well, it was at that time my baby when she was born. We didn't actually know what we were having. And that was a big driver for me to get better. So every day, no matter how sore I was, I knew if I moved, I would feel a bit better and I would be able to get through the day. But there was days that I just gave up. I'm going back to bed, painkillers, back to bed. I just couldn't face it. But every day after that, it would be worse. So it was every day, and I'm sure you guys could probably go into this now a wee bit. The more I could make myself not in pain, and it was exhausting to do that, but the better the pain was throughout the day. So I don't know if you want to go into that a wee bit. Yeah.
Well, I just thought it was interesting that last bit about you want to be able to pick up your baby. Like that's a super specific goal, and it has like a really strong kind of meaning, and I think that's a really big thing that a lot of people, when we train people, even miss, is like the kind of best clients, not the best clients to be working with, but the best clients that you kind of get because it's super easy, is they go, I just want to be more flexible, and it's like, all right, cool, well, we can change your flexibility just by breathing, so let's do a couple of breaths. Oh, look, you're better. Like, if, a lot of the goals is just, I just want to be better at this, and it's like, well, you don't know where that starts, you don't know where it ends, it doesn't really mean anything. It's like, why? Like, what are you going to do with that? Just keep the same boring life that I've got. It doesn't really lead to anything, really, does it? So, but then, having the, actually, I can see a very real thing that if I was able to do this, that would actually matter to me. It becomes easier to kind of set that as a goal, and it means the bad days, like the ones where it's just, this isn't fucking working, they don't derail it completely, because you still have something to latch back onto. It's
a big thing with weight loss, I think, because everyone can relate to that. You see stories of it all the time, people that were 30 plus stone and stuff, that put a picture of themselves on a mirror or whatever, and just looked at it every morning, and they've lost, they lose 20 stone, and they feel amazing, and absolutely life-changing stuff, but nobody really gives that same attention to your movement.
No.
You assume you hurt something, you're done, that's it, it's broke, I have a week back now, and I'll never be able to do anything again, and those thoughts creep in every day, without fail, and again, talking on that trigger for me in the head there as well, lifting my daughter was one thing, but also just, I had this strange visualization in my mind of this child saying, Daddy, play with me, and me replying, Daddy, Candy has a bad back, and it made me feel sick. And I was like, I don't want to be like that. And I'd met, like I said, so many people over the years, in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, that stopped doing things because they hurt themselves at a certain point, that were totally fine now. And I was like, I can be that person. Yeah. Why can't I be that person? It was just, at that point, it seemed to be much harder for me, because it seemed to me like I could fix people, but I couldn't fix myself. It was like, what is going on? I started. Basically, this will be quite an interesting thing on how you can actually start to retrain this stuff. But through martial arts, basically, you want to, if you're trying to grapple with someone and you're trying to submit them, you try something, doesn't work. You move to something else, try something else, doesn't work. Okay, you try something else, doesn't work. Try something else. You keep trying. If something doesn't work, you try again, try again, try again, try again. Oh, good, I got my submission, worked. And that was how I started to approach what I was doing movement-wise. I'm purely at this point self-taught. I learned the ins and outs of it later on, whenever I got my MRI scan, which we'll come to in a second. But at this point I was like, well, okay, it hurts for me to go straight down forward. If I'm trying to touch my toes and go straight down forward, it hurts straight away. If I turn my body to the side ever so slightly and go this way, it's not as bad. I'm still hesitant, it's
still not safe.
It's uncomfortable, it's still not safe, but it's not straight away. Spine pain.
Oh, danger.
Yeah, so if I sort of widen my legs a bit instead of having my feet together and went that way, I could start to get almost down to my knees with like my toe touch, and then I would be able to come over to the middle and come back up again, and instantly I'd be able to then have my feet straight and get straight to my knees, pain free. So I was like avoiding a pain trigger. So pain trigger is something that your brain basically sees as danger, which you guys can go into in a second, I'm sure. And I was going, well, I'm going to go this way then, and bypass the pain trigger, and then pass through it in the opposite way. And it was immediate a rewrite. Now, still every morning it's still reset. But that was something I was able to use to get myself better quicker every morning.
Exactly.
And get me pain-free more often. And the more I did that, then eventually after a few weeks, the intense pain in the morning started to be less. And I did actually try, I went through a phase of setting an alarm for 2 in the morning and 4 in the morning, and getting up and doing those things, so that when I had to get up at 6 to go and take classes, I hadn't just been still all night, because that's the worst thing with the discs hydrating overnight. Things, everybody feels stiff in the mornings, everybody does without feel, but if you have back problems, you will feel way stiffer than anyone else.
Inflammation builds at night time naturally in all bodies. Inflammation naturally occurs over the night. So as you said, everybody feels stiff in the morning. But it's really interesting the way movements and all things are learned is almost like a circuit. The brain will go and it'll fire the information along. If it doesn't work, it kind of goes back to the last successful point, fires that circuit again with a different option. But every time it fires it, it's cementing the bits that do work up until the option changes. I remember reading, I can't remember who it was by, there was a whole book about it, and it was the process of learning, and that's how it cements it, because it's like a beaded string, and it's going next point, next point, next point, next point. That bit works, that bit works, that bit works. That doesn't, go over here. That bit works, go over here. So it's like a branch off of successful and unsuccessful, and that's how you learn coordinated movements, because you know that this bit works, and you also have the experience of the pattern when it doesn't work. So then you can adjust it. Same thing where the safety of the brain. So you went down rotationally down here, you went through that pattern, even though it was in reverse. But the brain went, "I've just done that and it didn't hurt. Oh, I find that." And I find that's a thing that you just need to get some way.
That in its own is a trainable skill. You can get better at that. Yeah, you can get better. You can train yourself out of pain.
Yeah, pain
where people get stuck, and again mentally, because you believe you're going to break your back if you move.
Yeah.
And even if you have disc issues, it's not going to happen. Like if you really look at spines and like what a tear or a bulge or anything is, like it's so minuscule. For the amount of pain you get from that is because you can't see what's going on, so you imagine that your spine is just crumbling away.
And it's intense, because nerve pain is very intense.
So most people go to that, okay, let's try this, didn't work, I get back here again, and they just go, let's try it again, no, still didn't work. And they strengthen that and become more scared of that. And
they get in the habit of that hurting.
Yeah, and then rather than them going through that cycle of, well, let's try this then, oh, that doesn't hurt, they go, well, this hurts, this hurts, this hurts. Then they start going into this probably will hurt too, and because they've already thought that will hurt, and then they become scared to do everything, and that's why you see people just giving up on everything and never playing sports again, and never weight training again, believing that they can't lift weights anymore because their spinal break, and that is actually the worst thing for someone to do with a back injury.
Totally.
Stop training completely.
And the minute you stop training, what's going to happen is that pain, say point A was the point that it hurt, okay? And you were pushing to get further and do stuff, but you go point A, ow, it hurts. So you're going to stop at point A, but actually, eventually you're going to have to stop at point B, because pushing to point A hurts. Because the brain has got good at being in pain, so if you're not going to try and do stuff that causes a pain anyway, it'll start generating the pain for even less movement. So if you don't play sport anymore, actually it'll just start hurting now when you get up.
It's the same with anxiety. It's like the brain goes, all right, something bad's about to happen. Let's try fixing it with some pain, and then if you just stop straight away, and it goes, oh cool, pain works in this situation, nothing bad happened, I'm going to do that even quicker next time, so that because why let the problem develop? And then after a while it just becomes a bit of a habit. I think an analogy I always use about that twisting thing and everything is the brain doesn't rely on one source of information ever about what's going on. So let's say you're trying to reach forward and touch your toes. It goes, all right, I know what's about to happen. Tom's about to reach forward. Let's consult the lower back. And the lower back, if there's tissue damage, it goes, hey, probably a bad idea. We've got tissue damage here. And it goes, okay.
Just how do you do it, Captain?
So it's like, right, that's one piece of information. Second piece of information, like let's say what the eyes are saying. And there's a tiger over there. There's always a tiger.
There's always a tiger. There's always a tiger.
Tiger's over there. Well, fucking maybe I want to avoid what the lower back's saying, because actually this might be more important. Or let's say there actually isn't a tiger, and Tom's about to reach forward to try and touch his toes. There's no tissue damage, but he said, all right, let's see what Tom's thinking. Tom's terrified, actually.
Tom!
Why is he terrified? If there's
no tiger,
no problem, he shouldn't be terrified, but he is. So maybe there's a problem. And then because of that, then you still getting your back pain anyway, because it goes, he shouldn't be this scared, and there's something we're missing. Like, there's definitely one crucial piece of information, but then when you change it, it's like, oh, what happens in this position? Well, Tom doesn't know either, back doesn't know, this doesn't know. All right, let's try it out, and suddenly you're able to break the habit and start forming a new pathway of movement. And then once you can get all the way down and you find your way to that new position, then the brain goes, oh, well, yeah, that was fine last time. Tom's still really scared, but seems like it's going to be all right. And then next time you just do your regular reach forward, a little bit less pain.
Yeah. And that's where you're the worst person to deal with you, but you're also the best person to deal with you. And you need to get into that conversation. So it sounds funny that my back said this, but that's really what is going on. And you need to be the one that steps in that almost belittles it. You need to be like, this is fine. You need to start to belittle your pain and be like, this is completely illogical. If something was properly broken, I would fall on the floor like a sack of bones. I wouldn't worry, I wouldn't be able to move the leg at all. So obviously if you've something like that going on, you need to go to the doctor. You're probably something wrong.
But
just
don't try and turn to the side.
If you're able to do something but it's just uncomfortable or very, very painful, then it's like, well, it's obviously not disconnected completely. And for me at that stage, started to figure that out, and I started to progress that with other movements. It was like, so that's why I started to realize the importance of side planks and linking the lateral core stability with the hip strength as well, adductors and abductors, because that's what so many people miss out on.
Lateral ability to move in modern society, I think, because I think you probably inadvertently hit on gold there. Lateral, like the ability to use your adductors, abductors, and all the lateral muscles, like properly use the QL and everything. Doesn't exist in our society. Everything
planks,
is sagittal.
Straight planks.
Everything is sagittal. And people lose that. And I think I've talked to you about this before, Tom, and we've obviously talked about it. I generally will class back pain in 3 levels. So the first thing to disappear is your lateral ability to bend. The second thing to disappear is your ability to rotate. But the last thing to go will always be flexion and extension, because you'll see people with really supposedly bad backs, they'll still be able to bend over it and stand up and stuff, but they'll have lost all of those. So if someone's just lost the lateral ability to bend, it's not too bad because they still got rotation and flexion and extension, so it's easily fixed. But if they're all the way that they can only have flexion and extension, they can't laterally bend or rotate, it's actually a lot more severe. So I think you back then inadvertently hit on using all the lateral muscles to help go, oh, actually it's not too bad. And sort of, as you say, the intent that you had, like belittling your pain. Again, I think that was another thing. It just cemented that kind of, you are going to recover from this, because as an adult you have to have a bit of intention in what you're doing. You have to pay attention and be aware, because your conscious brain as an adult has a lot that it can do to change how you feel, how you move, all that kind of thing. But you have to have the intent. You have to have something really, a specific goal. So you're saying weight loss as well. That's the journey. That's not the goal. People that usually lose weight and keep it off, it's because, say, they start jiu-jitsu. They go, I decided I want to do jiu-jitsu. So the weight loss happens as part of the journey. People that have, say, weight loss or pain, that just move better, more flexible, as the goal, usually rebound, because it's not a tangible goal. So that you've kind of there done 3 things, naturally, that really give you a good foundation for going, I'm actually going to get out of this, which a lot of people actually miss, and it's 3 really core things.
And that's the big thing as well, is that, while I'm doing these things and they're working, they're only working temporarily. And at this point as well, when I started to realise those things, the foam rolling went out the window, because I was like, I'm going to spend more time in this stuff that I suck at, which should be simple. Like the side planks was one of them. It's like, I should be able to hold a side plank no problem. Like I can deadlift, loads. There should be no problem to hold my own body weight up. And I was really, if I was on my right side, I could not lift my left leg at all. I would have just fell straight on the floor. But if I was on my right side and engaged my left hip, I fell straight on the floor. If I was on my left arm and lifted my right hip, it was okay. It wasn't too bad. It wasn't great at it, but it wasn't too bad. But the other way around, boom, hit the floor. So I regressed it to the knee, and I could kind of lift the leg a little bit. And I just spent time with that, and I would have been crying, sweating and stuff like that there. But then when I compounded learning about how to relax yourself, breathing, again, another martial arts thing, it's like everybody's missing
foundational movement.
Foundational stuff, breathe,
Yeah.
You
You have to get good at being able to breathe.
Yeah, and it's like that, everyone's missing out, I think, with martial arts these days because no one's doing the traditional stuff. They're just going in and sparring and,
they're trying to do competition fighting.
The competition fighting all the time, so they're never doing the forms, they're never learning how to breathe, they're never learning how to do relaxed movement. Everything's always rah all the time, but when you learn how to actually keep yourself composed and move and breathe relaxed and create tension, but you're still relaxed. Like if you look at Usain Bolt, slow a video down to him, how relaxed is he while he's sprinting? You know what I mean? It's that concept of a good athlete, which everyone misses because everyone's like, you need to train, you need to sweat, you need to, go hard, go home. And that's, if you're not doing that, you're not training. But training's a big world of stuff. It's not just fitness, it's not just lifting weights. More body awareness. That's a damn good goal. Being more in touch with your, how you move, how you can sense muscle activation happening. That's a damn good goal.
I think that's a perfect analogy though as well. Like what stuff do you find difficult that you probably shouldn't find difficult? Like you would probably get way more benefit for everything you do. I make a noise every time I get out of a chair, but then what do I train with CrossFit? I got to lift heavier, but I still can't sit down without, it's like, maybe just train yourself to be able to get out of a chair without a noise. Like that
has a massive effect on people.
Yeah, it's like you just don't. If you worked at that as well, you're probably going to be able to lift heavier things. Like what's going on that's making how much of your conscious attention has to go into your lifting. That by the time you finish, your brain's just going, that was intense. I don't feel like doing anything, even sitting down. I don't feel like turning my head. Like I'll just keep all that stiff until it's time to go training again, and then I'll let you lift all the heavy stuff and look like a champion. And then when you finish, you're just back to being stiff.
You're a fridge. I think I call it fridge.
Yeah.
You walk in your fridge. But that was the thing for me. As well, so at this point, it was all I was getting like a light bulb every week, so something new. It was like, my hip flexibility is not great. I've never rotated my hips before. Never, no matter how many people I'd ever been to, no one had ever shown me the importance of external and internal hip rotation. Yeah. And you're talking, I spent thousands of pounds on, expecting people to fix me, and this was never ever assessed with me. I had no rotation in my right hip whatsoever, externally or internally, and my left hip, which is the side my injury's on, was like, woo! It was just like fine, and so that's what was hindering my squat. It was making my hips shift. It was doing all this stuff to me. I was only ever feeling my right glute, and when I addressed all that stuff and started back lifting again, after a session, I was like, this is what it's supposed to feel like. Yeah. I'm supposed to feel my hamstrings and glutes after I deadlift. Yeah. It was like mind blowing. It was like not my lower back and squats. My knees don't hurt after squats. I can feel my adductors and my glutes and my hamstrings after squats. That's it. In fact, my core feels tired after squats. It was like, rather than my lower back and my knees hurt, because that's what I thought, because you don't know. You don't know when you don't know. You just say, everyone else must feel like I do. They don't.
I bring this into every podcast as well. I blame the 80s action movies. The no pain, no gain, like Rocky in that shed and Rocky 90 million, where he's training in the snow, carrying logs, going, and they all simulate pain when training. Do you know what I mean? They get big and buff, and also the image of getting big and looking like a bodybuilder generally has zero range of movement. They're really big and strong, but they can't scratch their own chest usually, or they're usually so broken it's unbelievable. But that coupled with training has to be painful, I think has built up the modern fitness industry.
And it leaves people stuck that have no interest in training. And you tell them, if you want to get out of having back pain and just a daily life thing, you need to, and if we use the word train, that's what they instantly think. It's like, I can't do that, I'll hurt myself. Yeah. It's like, no. We're not talking about training with barbells and stuff yet. We're talking about, training your hips how to move better, training yourself how to balance. Yeah. Where does stability come from? It's just balance for a long period of time. You'll build stability. It's just what happens. Everyone gets really obsessed with having to find these perfect movements. Just stand on one leg. Yeah. Just find it so easy, close your eyes. If you find that too easy, turn your head while your eyes are closed,
Because no movement's perfect. There isn't a perfect movement.
Yeah. Also, your brain's not really built it's not built to spend all of its time focusing internally, where you go, I need this perfect movement because I need to know exactly what that rotation feels like. It's like, well, what's your body built for? It's built for looking at, I want to go over there, off I go, and those movements are never going to be perfect. They're just going to be whatever you can manage, and or I need to catch a ball, so what kind of a lunge do I if you thought of every time I go to catch a ball, I go, all right, I need to do a lateral lunge, so that means, okay, hip flexion, I'm going to have a bit of internal rotation so I can get this. You're never going to catch the ball.
I always use the analogy of the last time that you nearly fell over and you didn't, which muscles in what order do you tell to work?
Yeah.
And people are like, huh. So if you create the stimulus, the situation for your body to have to think for itself, you make your body more confident.
Exactly.
And it's not then scared to fall over. So this is why people, when they're older, they start to shuffle when they walk, if they don't let their feet leave the ground anymore.
Because they lose the vision as well. It's just going to break in the eyes.
But
that's it. That's what happens, because you see old people, they walk, they look at the ground and they shuffle, and it's because as you get older, a lot of people start losing the vision down below, where they just literally cannot see where they're putting their feet. So their brain doesn't feel safe, because all your brain cares about is A, surviving, and B, not falling over, because it's in a really fragile jar. It's literally, you're literally like Futurama. Do you know what I mean? So what do? It goes, I can still see there. Oh, there's my feet, class. You know, that's what happens. So I always think we're built, as you said, to look externally. We're getting information internally, but we're built to take information in, integrate it, and turn it into movement. So when people start getting focused on their pain, until they start forgetting the world, they start forgetting that they want to throw and catch the ball. So that's a great thing of, sometimes when you kind of, not trick people, but you coerce them into just throwing and catching the ball, and all of a sudden they forget that their shoulder's sore because they're doing a task. The brain's generally task oriented.
I had a guy once on a walking stick, scared to put his weight through his right and left side. I can't remember what side it was, and I thought, because I think it was around the time I actually met you, and you were talking about the importance of visualizing, the eyes and everything. And I thought, I'm gonna get this stuff. I'll go just for a laugh. And I got the guy just to hold the ball and just throw it up and catch it, throw it up and catch it, throw it up and catch it. And he was able to do that absolutely fine. And at this point, he sort of set the stick, against something. And I said to him, just walk up the length of the gym there and keep doing that while you're doing it. He worked perfectly. He walked straight as a die. As if there was nothing wrong with him. And he thought like I was some kind of mad genius going on here. But I was like, you've just got stuck in that cycle for so long.
That's the worst thing about
100%.
The external focus thing is that your brain also copies everything around you. So why do all old people in a home all walk the same? Is it because that's how you typically degenerate, or is it because you go, this is everyone around me? That's probably how we should all be. Everybody around me is still alive, so maybe that's the way to act. And I always thought that's one of the things I find it really hard to go to group classes. With acrobatics and stuff, I sort of go, oh cool, I know enough that I could just learn my own thing. But I'd really like to learn capoeira, or I'd really like to, try breakdancing, even though I think I'll be terrible at it. But one thing I'm really just against is that thing of where you get put in a room with everybody who's doing all those same things, just pushing themselves too hard into pain, and whether, even if you're aware of it, your brain is still going to copy some of that stuff. When you're a kid, you copy however your parents lifted up shopping. If they put on the horrible pain face, you go, I guess that's how you lift heavy things. I'll try it out and pick it up.
Exactly, and you also end up copying yourself, because you see yourself in mirrors, windows, all that kind of thing, and you see, and if you're being decrepit, and if the guy you were talking about walking with a walking stick, he sees it and goes, I'm doing right, that's the way I'm supposed to be, that's it, that matches with how I feel, and you get all the tension in the face and everything.
You build up a belief that's who I am, kind of thing. And you won't see into the future, and you'll never, a lot of people just don't consider, if I'm like this now, what am I going to be like in 10 years?
That's the hardest thing.
What's going to happen in 10 years? And that's, everybody needs to find that in themselves, to be look, I don't care, eat whatever you want, I don't care, lift or train or run or do whatever you want, I don't care. But do not let yourself stop doing stuff. Don't let yourself get scared of doing stuff, because that is just a bad path that nobody should be going down. And even if it is painful to move, even if you can't, worst case scenario, get yourself 100% pain free, let's go for 90% pain free then, you know what I mean? Go for the best possible alternative.
Keep the pain levels where they are, but increase the movement. But if you're still able to do more, even if your pain levels don't change, but you're still doing stuff,
I'd rather be strong and sore than weak and sore.
Exactly.
That's worse.
That's true.
Way worse.
I would rather still be in pain but able to move, because as we all know, no movement actually means no life. And as soon as you stop moving, as you see, the story all the time, people retire. and they go out and they pull it around in the garden, 6 months later they're dead. Because they don't have a task anymore, a goal, they can't visualise doing stuff anymore, so they just stop.
Yeah.
It's like a robot that runs down, just runs out of batteries. You park the car up for a couple of years, it won't start again. Same thing, I think, with the brain. If the brain isn't engaged, if the brain isn't doing stuff, the brain will just go, I don't really need it anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
Fuel and activation.
Exactly.
It's those two things, but everybody understands the fuel part because, well, you don't eat, you don't breathe, you die, but and also just every bit of your brain that you're not using, it goes, cool, let's save energy, get rid of that, and do too much of that, yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
There's a big thing as well, like just going back to like the nutrition side of things as well, like everybody as well can start to look for supplements to help with pain.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can have a good amount of inflammation, but as long as you move well, you'll probably feel fine. Movement comes first, it really does.
Yeah. Movement's great at actually lessening inflammation. And to a degree, you need inflammation, obviously.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, movement is probably the first thing you can go to that will help reduce inflammation.
But we'll get back onto the back, I think.
Yes.
Back onto the back. So at this point, I was totally pain-free, was back training again. I had beat my back squat again. My snatch numbers were going through the roof. Like every week I was hitting new PR, and it just felt amazing. Like I used to hate, because I was so inflexible, I couldn't snatch, couldn't overhead squat at all. You know, empty barbell would just have me crippled. I wouldn't be able to get anywhere. I wouldn't even be able to get close to parallel with the bar. And now I was able to hit below parallel squat, you know, nice and upright, and it felt strong, felt fast, felt really aware of myself, which is kind of handy for Olympic lifting.
Yeah.
So yeah, like everything was just going great. I felt amazing, and finally my letter came through to get my MRI scan. And I was like, well, I'm fixed now, because I'd been reading online about all these people whose spines fix themselves, you know, and they're totally fine. You know, a ball bulge or a slipped disc, you know, because discs don't actually slip.
No.
But I believed, the disc must have slipped back in. Then that's just the belief I had at that time, and got my, the letter through the MRI, and I was sort of like, I should probably cancel that, and I was like, I'll get it anyway, just for the crack. You know, I waited this long for it, you know. Yeah. And I went and got my MRI. And I was training away, and it took a few weeks to actually see the consultant. And that morning, I think, or it was the appointment was on a Wednesday, and I'm sounding like one of these granddads now. Like, I was wearing a red jumper.
Yeah. It was a windy day.
So I deadlifted 200 kilos on the Monday, and I went to the consultant on the Wednesday. And I walked in, and he says, "Mr. Morrison, do you want to take a seat for me there, please? You have a L4, L5 disc protrusion and an L5, S01 disc extrusion, which is impinging on a nerve for you. You have flattening of this, that, and the other, and degenerative and all this here shit." And I was sitting going, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Are you sure you got the right one?
Yeah.
And he was just explaining all it, and he's like, it says here that you're a weightlifting coach. You know, do you want to? You probably want to think of maybe a different career path and all. I'm sitting going, Are you? What? And I couldn't believe it. And then sort of left the room, and I was like, that was weird. And then a few days later, the letter came through to me, to me with the MRI report, and I read the things again. I started getting these tingling feelings in my lower back. I was like, this hasn't been happening for a long time, what's going on? And I just that was the realization moment I had there of like, you can still have structural deformities. Yeah. And be totally pain-free and fine, as long as you move well. And as long as you know what to address, if you're able to move your hips in all the ways that they should do. And I'm not talking about the splits, like splits is advanced flexibility. Yeah. I'm just talking a general level of flexibility that means you can squat, you're able to bend over to touch your toes, and just your hips move well in all the ways they should. So flexion, extension, internal, external rotation, and you've got your abduction and your adduction, and they move vertically as well. As long as you've got all that in place to an okay level. Like you don't need to be the internal rotation king. You know what I mean? Yeah. As long as they're all to an okay level.
We're not talking about degrees here, like.
Yeah, as long as you've got that and you've good balance about you, good thoracic extension, your lower back will chill out, it'll be okay, and that's something that you can actionably change. If you are stuck, so someone like me, and I think as well you guys, you have the same kind of stuff, don't you?
Yes. So broke L4, L5, L5, S1. Mm-hmm. Didn't know. I thought I'd slipped the discs at the time. But it's exactly what you're saying. If you have okay movement, it'll be absolutely fine structurally. Mm-hmm. Because I would say muscles are dumb. they turn on, they turn off, really. You know, like they're controlled by the nerves. If you've got enough feedback internally and externally and you have good enough movement, muscles are very strong. Muscles can support a lot of shit, if you know what I mean. And if they can move properly, if your nerves can give them the information to move properly, and you have built up the knowledge of the area, the safety of option and stuff that you can move into, you could be pretty badly structurally affected. And move.
Like, what age are you guys? Like 50,
39.
50, 60?
Yeah, 50,
like,
57.
There's no way that any of us have got to whatever age we are that there's not wee bits floating around here.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, because what you said as well about, you know, you went to see an actual doctor, and I think this is a big thing that a lot more people need to realize, is that you can still be a doctor and still be an expert, but the advice you're giving is based on the system that you're using. So when you go see the doctor, he's like, look, you're a weightlifting coach, probably a bad idea. That's based off, you know, the healthcare system that he's offering assumes that most people just won't want to take recovery into their own hands. It's like, I come to see you, you give me the fix, and the easiest fix is just, well, probably don't do all that heavy lifting stuff. That's what normally works. So that is actually good advice for most people. But if you're going to go, oh, actually, I'm going to do something about this, looking into your own movement and looking into your own recovery is probably going to be much better for you. It's just not that the specific doctor couldn't keep tabs on every single person. If he's like, oh, you're going to have to check in with me every day, well, he just doesn't have the time to do that.
It's not financially viable.
He's still an expert, but the advice he's given is restricted to the system that he's working in.
That was what I noticed, because I was given pain management and they were said about surgery as well, and I thought, well, I'm going to see what this pain management's like, even though at the time I didn't need it, kind of thing. And that is exactly what the physio said. I went in and sort of explained what I was doing. And they were like, that's great, because we're only allowed to look at your back. We aren't allowed to look at your hips, because you know, we've only got you for, say, 15 minutes, 30 minutes. We are only allowed to give you back exercises that, you know,
otherwise you're not covered.
They know, they know
it's
it's not really going to be that helpful for the person. You know, so sometimes people go, oh, doctors are blah 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 blah, but it's like, no, they are literally bound.
Well, that's the flip side. And they go, oh, I saw a physio and they were rubbish. They did nothing for me. And then I went to my Reiki or like my homeopathy person, and that sorted it right out. So physios clearly know nothing. And it's like, well, no, it's just and with the age thing as well, it's a bit scary how.
Good I look for me at 56.
Well, for me at 56, pretty good. But last time I went into the hospital after having surgery on my face, I get a lot of left-sided problems, and knowing what I know about the brain and stuff, anytime I get enough of them at the same time, I get a bit scared and I go like, oh, I better make sure something's not really wrong there. And so I'll go into like A&E and I'll be explaining. So got this, and I'm like, I feel like that's got to mean something. And they look at me and they go, yeah. So says here you're over 30. Yeah, that's about normal. It's like, oh really? That's the advice? Yeah. It's like you're gonna deteriorate for a while, I guess.
It does two things. It does, you can see how it makes people lose confidence in doctors and physios and all that. You can fully understand that, but you've got to understand they're legally bound, because you don't want to get sued if they give you anything. Say you go on your back and they give you something for your hips and you fuck it up and hurt yourself, you can sue them. And also, they are bound by looking at you like a mechanical object. They haven't yet reached the point of fully looking at you as the full organism in the healthcare system.
You could have to kick up a stink for 2 years to get to see someone that could actually properly help you.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the doctor that you're seeing is bad or anything like that. It's just like we haven't got to the right one yet.
Exactly.
You haven't got to the right specialist yet.
And they generally don't talk to each other that often.
Yeah, there's that as well. But it's just, unless you keep going, something's not right, keep on pushing, you know, you're never going to get to see the right doctor. And that's, I think, a big problem where we're from, is that it's just like kind of a suck it up princess and get on with the attitude. It's like, oh well, the doctor didn't help me, well, I'll just live with it then.
This is the way I am now.
Yeah, instead of actually going, well, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? What do I think? What can I do? You know,
the people that always get better are the ones that stop saying, what do you think, and go, what do I think? What can I do? I think that's unfortunately a byproduct of the healthcare system we've got, is everyone goes to the doctor to get fixed. No one fixes themselves.
And how long do you have to wait for an appointment? Or even if you're finding that hands-on treatment is helping you a lot, it's like still only 45 minutes, maybe an hour on the table of you lying still not moving.
Not doing anything.
The amount of stuff that you can do every day to train your body is going to be. It's going to just be way more beneficial.
You do stuff standing at the kettle.
Yeah.
In the morning.
You're with you every day. Yeah. You are the best person to fix you.
And speaking about that, you being with you every day, I know it's awesome being with you every day, but you must still, even though you're back doing everything and you're generally pain-free, everybody has relapse every now and then because sometimes your brain does something and it goes, "Oi, Jesus, Batman," and then it just shuts you down for a week or something. But you've got to a point you can handle it. Yeah. So there's obviously, no matter what, there's trigger points still. I had 3 major flare-ups when I thought I was totally out of the woods. Yeah. And each time the flare-up happened, I thought, oh no, my spine's definitely broke. No, nothing's worked. I'm back to square one. But that always happens. It always just your natural thought.
Totally normal to happen. And you have to understand that. So the first time I had a really bad flare-up, it maybe took me like a month or 2 to get over. Second time I had that flare-up, it took me about 3 weeks to get over. And then the third time, it was like 3 days. And then any time after that, it was sort of like, that sort of, we're talking around with the conversation you sort of have with yourself. It was sort of like, ooh, I was like, shut up.
Yeah.
And you get to that point of dominance over your own body and your own pain, of understanding. It's like, look, we know, we live with this, everything's fine. The only thing I'm left with now is, so at the time before I found out that I actually had the impinged nerve, I just thought that my left glute was underactive compared to my right glute, but now I know there's actually a block, an actual problem.
Not getting or receiving.
Yeah, so whenever I squeeze my bum, my left one feels like it does it differently to my right one. Yeah. It's still feeling both squeeze, but this one will push me way further than this one, and it's visibly smaller. So if you want my good side,
that's why you're always. That's why they placed you on that side of the
wheel. The right side, get the bum, the good bum.
That's why you're on that side, so you've got your good side.
So that's what I'm sort of left with. If I fully lean to this side, so that if I lean to my right, I can feel pressure to the low back.
I'm actually very similar on the same side.
Yeah, and if I lean to the other side, I still feel that pressure on that side. Yeah. But the other side's totally fine. So that's all I'm left with now, and it doesn't cause me any problems.
You're aware of it.
Yeah, and I'll even, because there is that, we're laughingly talking about pushing yourself hard and no pain, no gain kind of thing. But I'm not even scared at this point. If I say was to wake up feeling quite stiff, and even if my lower back did feel tired, even or just a little bit stiff, and I had deadlifts programmed to do that day, I wouldn't be scared to do them. I'm not even at a stage now of going, I need to make sure I protect my lower back. I'm like, I know it'll be fine as soon as I start moving and the blood's going, it'll be sweet. I have enough confidence in my form that, in fact, activating everything through lifting is probably going to make me feel better, and it always does. You know what I mean? One of the best things that ever happened to me was I was still petrified to actually lift the barbell at one point. I just started running around the wrestling mat that we had at the time, and I spent about 20 minutes just running around, changing direction.
Well, that big dirty thing.
Yeah, in my bare feet, and I went onto the main mats then, and was still in my bare feet, and I just started loading up a barbell, and I stuck 60 kilos on it. I was like, oh, felt great, and it almost felt like fireworks going off. It was like, yes, this is what we need. We need you to feel strong. Why have you not been lifting? And it was like, it was like I said, if you want to get rid of pain, you need to make your body feel confident and strong.
Yeah. That the simplest way to look at it is your bones and everything needs support. Like your body needs support to move. What's the best kind of support? A fucking strong support. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. You're not going to go and build a house on jelly. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? That's it. So
that's why bones don't just do things for the crack. They don't just do it for the fun of it.
Muscles move bones, nerve move muscles.
So, yeah. And that's so many people end up, even without structural injuries, with horrible back pain because they're really stupidly tight in one hip flexor, or they always lean on one side, or say they're on their mouse all day at work and they're just leaning like this all day. So when they stand up straight, they're going to be curved, and if they don't know to stretch their sides, it's just as important to be able to touch your toes and extend your hips to stretch your sides as well, because that can just leave things funny.
It doesn't have to be an hour and a half or an hour's warm up to go and do stuff. It can get to a point where literally it's a normal standardized warm up, like you're 5 or 10 minutes and you're off and you're ready to go, even if you've had massive back pain. And it's always like it can still be sore. You always work with like that. Flirt with amber. Be an amber. Amber's okay. Be aware of stuff. Don't let it go red light. Don't let the pain get too intense. If it's an amber, you're aware of it. Being aware of it doesn't make it bad. Being aware of it is just mean you're getting information. How your brain integrates it and what output you do from it. That's the key. So you can be receiving like some discomfort signals, tightness signals, all that. That doesn't mean you have to stop. That just means you're getting the information.
Unless you've fallen over a big rock sideways and felt this crack, then you're probably all right to move.
Exactly.
You know, you're not going to hurt yourself doing bodyweight stuff.
No.
You always want to pick the stuff that's safe, and having your hands on yourself as well.
Yeah.
Oh, hello. Having your hands on yourself gives that confidence as well. So if you're needing to get down to the floor, have your hand on your knee and all that other stuff. You know, that's still, it's going to give your body confidence to actually go, right, okay, let's get to the floor here. Whereas if you go both hands off and try and dive to the floor, you're going to get a straightaway nerve.
Exactly.
Your brain's going to go, no, danger!
Yeah. Some people try and jump too far ahead.
Yeah. So like I went through stages of like I could do side planks for days at one point, and felt absolutely fine. But if I had that flare up, completely regressed. I had to go back to the knees as if I'd never done a side plank before in my life. And working through that, regain the movement, made myself pain free.
I need to learn to be okay with that.
Exactly. Don't load up a barbell and start jumping sideways.
No.
You know what I mean? That's not going to help, but
no.
Move gently, safely, breathe. That's a big, always be aware of the breath. Because the second you start to feel pain, you'll go and breathe into your chest, like a child that's fallen hurt and stuff. So you need to pause for a second. I like to call them fuck-it breaths.
Yes.
The when you get in from a bad day of work kind of thing, and you go, oh, as if you're just relaxed and finally home and away from a bad day. That's the way I like to explain it. And like, there's loads of breathing techniques out there.
Oh yeah.
It's sort of the simplest one to grasp. It's like make yourself feel
exactly.
Like that,
and we have a full breathing playlist on YouTube, so go and check it out. There's loads of different things like the fuck-it breaths. But they're not. We don't call them that. But I think we might call them that from now on. Yeah. But you're right. Like,
everyone knows what that means. You're standing talking to someone that's doing your head, and they finally leave. You're like, it's that you want to go through you.
Exactly.
Because it makes you feel safe.
Yeah.
You finally, yes. Okay.
Exactly. And there's a lot to be said for learning how to. 95% of people I see cannot breathe properly because they've never. Well, usually you would never be taught how to breathe, but in modern day life, things just get dysfunctional and they just go and do their job. They have to go do this, and they don't actually take any time to look at themselves.
Yeah, and 95% of those 95% won't be told that they can't breathe properly. So like, what do you mean? It's just like breathing's breathing. There's nothing wrong. It's fine. And then you go, all right, let's do this test, and sometimes then that's the light bulb moment where we go like, oh, I should be able to do that. Yeah, you should really be able to. Like, you should be able to take longer than 5 seconds to inhale and longer than 5 seconds to exhale. And some people just can't. But some people even after that go, well, I'm still alive. Like, if I'm alive now, it's not a problem. And it's just tricky.
If you can't breathe properly, your brain's probably going to be in a constant state of panic, because that's you're driving down the road in the car, right, and your fuel gauge is nearly empty, and the next petrol station is 10 miles away. Any judder or shunt, you're like, shit, I'm running out of petrol. You know that kind of panic. You're like, I need to get there. That's your brain receiving oxygen. If you can't breathe properly, it's not great. Like, that's fuel. You need that. That's what keeps you alive. So moving on from that, so you're down at the point where everything's great. You know your triggers. You know it's not that hard. Well, it's not that it's not that hard, but you know like it's shorter and shorter between recoveries. You know the things you have to do. You're aware of the information you're getting. You're doing all this. Would you consider yourself now recovered, or would you consider yourself that you're always not recovering, but you've always got further to go towards truly feeling like that's behind you?
No, I feel like I'm fully recovered, but I have a vast sense of what it's like to not be recovered, which is highly motivating.
Yeah.
Because when you've had your movement robbed from you and you realise how bad life can be, it's a pretty damn good motivator. Like when you can't do normal tasks, when you can't enjoy going out for dinner because you can't sit for too long, you can't even be in the car to get to the restaurant, and when that thought again of not being able to lift your children, and it's like, hey, do you want to go for a coffee, go for a walk or whatever, and you're sort of thinking, I wonder if the soft seats I can kind of lay back in kind of thing, and it rules your entire life, and it's just a constant thing in the back of your head, and you're walking around and you're doing anything, you're having a conversation with someone, it's like, my back hurts, my back hurts, my back hurts, my back hurts.
It's still there.
You're not fully there. And that's, people laugh about me being jokey and happy and stuff like that there. Life is pretty damn good when you're not sore.
Yeah.
I am very ecstatically happy about not being in pain, and I really enjoy my life because I am a different person when I'm sore and in any kind of pain, and I'm even more sensitive to it. Like I would be more sensitive to it now. I'd be even grumpier faster because I'm not having this straight away. I'm like, I need this fixed right now. This is not normal. I know it's not normal to be in pain. And yeah, like I said, you'll act differently. You'll have conversations differently. You'll actively avoid to do things. It's just not something. It's not a path that you want to take. And like I said, that idea of what am I going to make in 10 years? What am I going to make in 20 years? Even if it takes you 10 years to get better, it's worth doing. I find myself actually very lucky that I straight away went, I'm going to fix this right away at the start, because we were due to have Roxy so soon, back injury. If Shelley wasn't pregnant at that time,
you could have sat in it.
I don't know. I could have just wallowed in self-pity and went straight back to booze and cigarettes, and that would have been me back to life again, and gave up coaching and went to the job that I hated every day, and just waited to retire. That could have been my life, which is not a nice thing to think, and it would have been just purely down to pain.
But and that goes to show you how important. One thing we sort of touched on it, but not directly, and I want to talk to you about it as well, because this is where Tom Morrison came from. So how important visualization is. How important visualization is in actually making a recovery, because I find that people that are stuck in pain, say chronic pain, or they're injured and they've been injured for months and stuff, they come to me, they have lost the ability to visualise. They've lost the ability to future project not being in pain. They forget what it's like not being in pain, so they can't imagine it and picture it. So as you were saying before, we've had chats before where it's really important how you visualise being able to hold your daughter without being sore. So that's a really important visualisation, future projection of not being sore and doing something, which I think is probably hugely important, your actual dedication to the task of getting out of pain. So that's why people that went down the path of staying in pain, I always find the first thing is to get them to think about imagining not being in pain, if that makes sense. Even though it might take 10 years, but
even to this day, when I'm having a call with someone, I will start to well up in the eyes when I see someone in that stage, because I know how stuck they feel, and they really don't believe in themselves that they can actually get out of it. And I don't really like to talk about the mindset stuff that much, but I'm more and more I'm seeing the value of bringing it out more into social media and stuff, just because it is so powerful. If you can get someone to kind of believe that they might be better, that's just the start of it. And if you can ignite that wee fire in them, and they can build in that, because you do, because your brain's trying to protect you. With pain, it stops you from doing stuff, and it gives you the bad thoughts. It makes you think that you're weak. It creates them thoughts. It's not just you being illogical. It's your brain trying to protect you.
Exactly, and pain is the other side of the same coin as focus. And if you have a visualization to work to, you're focused on it. Pain and focus are designed to do the same thing, protect you. So you're in pain, that's protecting you, because your brain priorities aren't your priorities. So that, according to the brain, is protecting you, even though consciously you're like, this ain't protecting me, this sucks. But then you flick the switch and you turn it to focus, because you've visualised an end goal of the end goal of it's not being in pain. The end goal is lifting your daughter perfectly fine. The journey ends up getting you out of pain to the end goal, but you're focused on it. So it goes to show that thoughts can actually make physical changes. If you get really nervous instantly, you think about something, you get super nervous, you feel a bit sick. That's a physical change that a thought has made. So it goes to show you, if you visualise, try not to sound like a PT looking for 5 motivated people, but but you know what I mean. So it's flicking that switch to move from pain to focus, and they're both protecting you. It's just that one takes you to a totally different place. And I think that's, as you we're saying there, that's probably one of the most important things that you can do initially, is flick that switch to get people to try and visualise not being sore, because it's really hard to do actually. It's harder than you think.
It is. Especially if you're not just like a naturally creative person, I find I was a bit lucky with that as well. I am a very visualising person. I'm quite good at doing that. Again, probably just through martial arts, like shadow boxing. You're imagining someone's in front of you trying to punch you and stuff, so it does really help you to create things. And if I hadn't have done that with where I wanted to be and what I wanted to be able to do. Especially because there's other goals I had as well. I love making silly videos and doing like completely daft stuff. And I would have seen me in the morning sometimes after taking a 6 a.m. class and sitting down just with a coffee and going, I'm not going to train today. And then I would just have this thought in my head of doing a funny video of me doing like a muscle up and then a forward roll and a snatch and then a cartwheel and then a else at the handstand and then a really, really heavy deadlift and then running away laughing. And I'd be like, that'd be really funny.
Yeah.
And I would do it. I would go from like feeling can't be bothered today to going, yeah, I'm going to do that. Yeah. And do this mad thing that would look impressive, not to any high level athlete at all, but just the combination of different movements is like, what is this guy doing kind of thing, and that sheer just sort of like, I would find that funny and it would make me do that as well. So like you can start off with the silliest little things, and visualize yourself going for a walk, for example, or a long walk and not being sore, and take yourself out short walks and build yourself up to actually doing that.
Pushing the option, pushing the endurance as well. That's exactly it. Because I remember, weirdly enough, I think I met you initially whenever you were still doing those videos back in the old gym. Mm-hmm. And I think it must have been not long after you were, I think you'd only been doing what you're doing now for about a year or so, when I think I first met you. And you can see, if I look back on YouTube, so now your content's, it's still funny, but it's more educational, it's more, like you've accepted now, oh actually I've done this now, I'm actually here, I'm going to teach other people. But at the beginning, whenever you're doing those mad things, you can see, it looks like it's actually just sheer joy that you can actually do them.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? You're like, holy shit, I can actually do this. Yeah. And it comes across because you're like, oh god, I can actually move. Thank God I can actually move.
And that was where the idea of Tom Morrison came from. Yeah. There's been loads of Tom Morrisons before Tom Morrisons. There's been loads of Gareth, there's James. It's like there's been these people out there that have overcome these things.
Oh yeah.
And I want to be the Tom Morrison that has done that. Yeah. I don't want to be Tom Morrison that doesn't. He's Thomas. He's Thomas. Yes. He's cowering in bed and just going, no, I'm not getting up, I'm not getting out of bed. I don't want to be that. So if I have to pretend to be Tom Morrison, even when I'm starting to feel a bit like I can't be bothered kind of thing, then I will, because he's a better guy. He's the guy I want to be. Yeah. And that's very powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, and it does. And the more that gets repeated, repetition is key for that kind of thing. But so that's where you were. This is where you are. So all that led for you developing. I'm drawing a little wiggly path on the table just for everybody that's listening. This is the timeline. It goes like a snake. You then went and you created SMM, Simplistic Mobility Method, available from tommorrison.uk.
Yep, .uk.
Oh yeah, I knew that already. So I really wanted to say .co.uk, but no, it's .uk.
No, I think it's a politician has the .co.uk.
Oh, that's right. Yes,
yeah,
yes, an American politician, isn't it?
No, it's UK politician.
Oh, is it?
There's a band as well that has the .com. So yeah, me and Jenny kind of want to rebrand because
there's a band called tommorrison.com.
They're like Tommy Morrison and the Ravels.
Oh, I thought it was going to be like an awesome tribute band to you.
No, they
internal hypertition.
No, they own tommorrison.com. So it's like, no, that's my name.
So you created then obviously Simplistic Mobility Method, SMM,
and that was from basically everything I went through,
and
all the stuff that I realised I struggled with, that I realised that other people struggle with too, because I got hurt really fast because of my enthusiasm. Yeah. But like we trained people for like 5 years at a time, so like I was noticing over 5 year periods, going, here, he can't do that thing I couldn't do, and he keeps tweaking his back. She keeps getting this, and she really sucks at doing this, and there was just all these sort of patterns. Like nobody makes any sense. Everybody's different. You'll have to do different things with everybody, but there is like almost like a structure, almost like how a car should work with your body. And if I just started to figure out, if I block off all these potential things that can go wrong, that can cause the pelvis to rotate, can cause it to hike, and can cause your shoulders to round, if I pick the best movements for that and organize them in a way that they'll build on each other, and just make it, just do this many times in this order, don't mess around with it, don't try and change it. If you struggle with one of the exercises or more, work on it until you can do it. There you go, because that's what I wanted. I wanted, I didn't want to know the ins and outs. Just give me what works, give me it now, and I'll do it for 6 hours a day. That's what I kind of wanted.
Because nobody wants to learn the ins and outs. People just want to go, this works, just do this.
Yeah, and for some people it's just not necessary. Some people don't really care anyway, and
or at least not till after. It's like once you see, this does work, you're like, why would I want to learn how it works, and then discover it doesn't really work.
Yeah, so, and that was even the thing, like even to this day, I'm still picking up little things about the movements that are in SMM from different aspects, even from like what you guys teach, the vestibular system aspects of it and stuff as well. of the movements I selected, I'm like, it's really, really good movements, Every now and again, I'm sort of like, hey, go me for picking that, because I knew loads about it at the time. Do you always learn more about any exercise, or why an exercise works, or why an exercise might not work? All these things. So I built that system up, and people all around the world use it. I think we've over 5,000 members in the group now, and like people that I've never met before in my life have done this same set of movements. And it doesn't matter if they're 40, 50, 60, I think there's someone 72 at the moment in the group. It doesn't matter what their training history is, what they like to do, male, female, age, none of that matters. They're all getting results from the same list of exercises, whether it's knee pain, back pain, shoulder pain, foot pain, neck pain, anything, because things are sitting in better positions and things are opened up the right way, and the stability elements that need challenged, that people can get weak with, are all being challenged.
It's making their brains feel safer because it's building a strong support. So it's helping, it's giving the stability where it's needed, it's giving strength where it's needed, and it's also giving the flexibility where it's needed. But it's these kind of core exercises where, obviously, like you said, certain joints should be able to move a certain way. That's a mechanical fact. The brain will have a lot of control over how much movement it will allow you to have, but still mechanically there are certain ways a joint should move.
And that's the thing as well, like you'll probably get it as well, like you get so many people going, have you anything for golf? Have you anything for tennis? Have you anything for all the different sports? And it's like, how about we just make your joints move like joints, and you'll be able to do whatever you want.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter. So if you have better joints, like I said about the muscle up thing earlier on, because my shoulder just moved better and was more stable, I was able to do more muscle ups. It wasn't through training muscle ups at all. It was just I had a better shoulder, more access to my natural strength. So that you got to think about the body like that, and you got to think about the body as a whole. You can't go, my shoulder hurts, I'm going to just do shoulder exercise, because your shoulder could hurt because of the way you're standing with your hip, or your thoracic rotation, all those things. Or like even you could have great flexibility, but get back pain because you have no stability. And,
a lot of yoga teachers I know are some of the most in pain people I've ever met, because they are super flexible, but they don't have any of the strength to support anything. So that's why I really like about SMM actually is, say sore hips, you still do all the exercises. You might be doing exercises for your thoracics that you might think on your shoulder that you might think has nothing to do with your sore hip at the minute, but unbeknownst to you, to you, all of those are actually building to help make your hips better. Because as well as just working on the muscles, it's also increasing the proprioceptive feedback that all the joints are giving to the brain to go, oh, I have a body, it has all these joints, they can move. So, and it doesn't take forever. So that I think you've really
that was the thing.
Distilled it down.
Same like in nutrition again, everyone's like, calorie deficit, that's how you lose weight, calorie deficit. It's like, well, mobility is a little bit more complex, but it is still simple in a way. It's like, with the exercise, like there's 13 drills, and those ones that I chose, like, just do them. You don't need anything else, just do them. If you can't do one, practice the progression until you can do it. And that's all you need. You don't need hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of exercises. You need to hit the same principles again and again and again and again, and get really good with them, and then you'll be fine. It doesn't, like you said, doesn't take hours. You can bang out an SMM in 30 minutes, and when you get better at the exercises, for example, like the deep lunge test, if you can get your elbow down to the floor in 1 or 2 reps, well, pass. Let's move to the next exercise.
That's always
the range is there. Hey, let's spend more time on stability.
Exactly. Or as you say, as I was always saying before as well, you can turn those exercises into strength training exercises. And just make everything even stronger, or it can become part of your warm up. Say if because you don't, once you do it, you don't have to stick with it. Once you are able to do it all, that can then become part of your warm up. It can be something you do on an active rest day. It can be whatever. It just sets up a good foundation to get everything moving properly, so then you can go and do whatever you might want to do, whether it's golf or weightlifting or just walking the dog. And that's what I think is really good about it. And that's why I think you've helped so many people, because it is distilled down. It's not.
It's doable.
Yeah, it's doable, and it isn't. It's not. You haven't set yourself up as the teacher. As like the hero of the story. You set yourself up as, I've been there too. This is what helped me. I will bet my left arm that it's going to help you too, to some degree, at the very least.
It gives us space to look at all those basic things, like will this help with my golf? Well, your golf coach probably is only looking at your swing but like you said, it's like, well, the side plank or like any of that stuff, you should probably still be able to do that, and that's still going to have an effect. Like if you can't do that, that's going to have a knock-on effect on everything that comes after it, but nobody ever wants to regress it. So if you've just got all that information in one place, that's kind of handy and helpful to be able to do.
And I feel that everyone should want to look after themselves at home. You know, it's not your golf coach or your CrossFit coach or anything. It's not their job to fix you.
No.
You should be going to them already moving well so that they can give you the best possible service. Because if you're going to your coach, like, we love this stuff. We love to help people to get them to do what they want to do. And when they can do what they want to do, I don't really want to get them strong that much because it's boring.
Yeah.
Right, okay, let's do 80% this week. Okay, let's do 82% this week. Okay, let's do 83% this week. Okay, all right, you've got stock right. Let's change the rep scheme. Do that for a while, and back to the original one. Okay, and it became really boring to me. Whereas figuring out how to get someone who groans when they get out of a chair to competitive CrossFit and Masters divisions.
That's interesting.
And
which you've done.
Yeah.
But I find that really interesting. Is we like fixing the problem, getting them back to doing what they want to do, but we don't want to coach them to lift weights. We aren't personal trainers. We want to help them solve a problem. We just don't like people being in pain. We think it's a waste of a huge human life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The reason I got out of kind of circus and acrobatics coaching was just the amount of time where it's, you know, I did really enjoy teaching the stuff, but it was, you always got to this wall with somebody where it was like, all right, well, if you want to be able to do this, you kind of need to sort out all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And I can do that, but you're paying me to teach you this. But I've just hit this wall where it's like, well, I don't know, this is sort of the end of the road for you until you like take that reality check and go, oh, hang on, I can't look sideways without feeling sick. It was like, well, how do you expect to somersault through the air and like twist around and spin around in the air really fast? But, you know, we can work on that, and then you're going to complain about it because it's like, oh, well, he didn't do the cool acrobatic stuff that I want to put on Instagram.
And we've got our own app. Like, we sell, you know, much the way you have the S01e01, we've got our own thing where we do like strength training and stuff. We also have this program. We've got two. It's the vestibular reset and neural rebuild. So neural rebuild probably first, and then vestibular reset that you go on. They don't take long to do, and it just helps get everything up to where it should be. You know, that you should be able to look at a target. You should be able to look at a target and move your head. So that gets you to the point where
look through pinpointy glasses.
Yeah, exactly. So it gets people to a point where they can then go and do their training or their warm up. So it gives them access to a little bit more range, a little bit more safety. So then they can go and correct anything that needs corrected. Yes, and weird pinhole glasses.
Yeah,
that make you see better.
What Gareth didn't catch at the start of this thing was I tried to look at this chart, so I can see E, F, P, T, O, Z. If I squint, I can see L, P, E, D. I cannot see what's that, 1, 2, 3, 4. I cannot see the fifth line at all. These glasses are just blacked out glasses with little holes in them, and I'm putting them on now, and I can see that fifth line, P, E, C, F, D. I can even see the sixth line, E, D, F, C, Z, P. So I have really, really bad eyesight. And these glasses, just because of... In fact, James, you explain what they're doing. What are they doing?
Basically, these are pinhole glasses. So what they are normally used for, the idea was to let people's eyes relax when they're using computers and stuff like that. So the pinholes are very, very small. That helps to focus the light before it comes into your eyes, which means you'll be able to see a little bit further. And the idea was, if you're going to be working at a computer for a long time, your eyes are going to get strained because your lens is always contracted to one specific position.
Like a constant bicep curl.
Yeah, like you're holding a heavy weight in one position for the whole time. And what the pinhole glasses do is they'll focus the light just a little bit more, which means your eyes get a chance to relax so they don't have to do much work. Almost in a similar way to like how your glasses lenses work. But they can be really useful for anyone with like eye fatigue and things like that. We use them a lot for like in training. We find if anyone has strength issues where they're just finding nothing else is improving, stick on pinhole glasses. For concussion as well, if they have light hypersensitivities, You can stick the pinhole glasses on, reduces the amount of light coming into the eye, makes it easier to focus, and then that means the brain has kind of freed up a little bit more energy to do other things.
I had a guy before, he was stuck at deadlifting 126. Stuck those on, and he just got them to walk around with them all for a minute. Kept them all when I did the deadlift. 162.
Nice.
Instantly.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, amazing, I love this. But that shows you is if your brain feels safer, it will allow you more strength, more flexibility. It'll just allow you more, basically, because it's holding everything at a certain tone, it's holding everything a certain way, because that's the way it feels safest. And that's why things like our neural rehab program and your SMN program and that, it helps increase that safety option for the brain, so it just allows the body to function a bit better and start trying to keep it there normally. But yeah, I think that's probably us, I would say. Now that Tom's seen the amazement of the pinhole glasses, because really that's all this was just to get you try them on.
Absolutely class.
But thanks for coming in.
Yes.
And
good fun.
hopefully it was interesting enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always interesting.
Yeah.
We were talking about this stuff all day. We don't even need to podcast it.
Oh, yeah, we're going to keep going. Once you stop, once you're gone, we're
we'll
going to
just
keep
take our
going.
clothes off.
Yeah, pretty much. We have podcast Wi-Fi. No, we don't. Alright folks, I'll see you next time.